Hey everyone, Kungaloosh, and welcome back to That Disney. Okay, you guys, so this week we're gonna be debunking one of Disney's biggest secrets. I'm talking about the biggest Disney secret society that exists to this day and is growing. Now, some of what I'm gonna tell you is something that's never been told before. Seriously, these are some of my theories, and I think they might just be true. What if I told you that there was a Disney theory that can connect all of the parks all around the globe, and one that might even tie into Disney's cinematic universe? Well, get ready, because that is exactly what I'm about to do when we are talking about Disney's secret society of explorers and adventurers. The Disney Society of Explorers and Adventurers, or also known as the Disney Sea, is one that actually came to life and was one that was realized by all of its fans when Disney Sea in Tokyo opened up in 2001. But I think that this idea of an exploring society in Disney really stemmed from Pleasure Island in the Adventurer Club. Now, if you've never been to the Adventurer Club before, this was in Pleasure Island, which was once in downtown Disney, aka Disney Springs, but it was taken down. When you went here, you were able to witness a show of animatronics, live performers, and everything was about explorers. So the Adventure Club actually started from Imagineer's Love of the World. A really big Imagineer that played a role in this was Joe Rohde. Of course he did, because he's amazing. But it was actually Chris Carradine who had a really big vision for the Adventure Club. If it was going to be successful, his idea was to actually expand it so that as time went on, new rooms would actually open up and you would actually be kind of going on this treasure hunt, learning and exploring into new parts of this Adventure Club as time went on. Unfortunately, that didn't end up actually happening, but I think it would have been so cool if it did. But I think that it's almost like it did continue with the Disney Secret Society, because more things are getting revealed as time has gone on. So on a sad day in 2008, the club closed, but the artifacts within it were not ready to be put to bed, and they are now scattered across the Disney parks around the globe and help to tell the story of Disney's secret club. But this tale begins on August 12th, 1538. Now, to tell this story, we need to head to Fortress Exploration. Now, you're gonna find this at the Disney Sea theme park. Fortress Exploration is clearly the beginning of the Disney Sea, and this is because it has its crest slapped right onto the front, and that crest reads, "We, the members of Society of Explorers and Adventurers, herewith establish Explorers Landing in order to promote the sharing of nautical and scientific knowledge for world exploration." Now, we've never been told which specific explorers started this club, but something that we do know is that it started with real explorers, not fake ones. When you're in Fortress Exploration, you can see creations by Leonardo da Vinci. We know that Ferdinand Magellan had his hand here in Fortress Exploration. We also know this because there's a restaurant in Tokyo Disney Sea called Magellan's. The society went super quiet after that, and we didn't hear anything about it until 1899. Now we are going to be talking about one of my favorite Disney Sea members, although he is probably one of the most hated amongst the actual club. So this Disney Sea member is Harrison Hightower III. Now, if that last name rings a bell for you, I will answer that question. George Hightower was actually Harrison Hightower's brother. Now, George Hightower is actually someone that you can find in the Haunted Mansion. He was Constance's fifth husband, and he is also a permanent resident of the Haunted Mansion. Right now, let's stick with Harrison Hightower III. Harrison Hightower, as you may know, is the character that embodies the Tower of Terror in Japan. Now, at Disney Sea, their Tower of Terror isn't based on the Twilight Zone series like the one in Orlando or the one that used to be in California. This is because in Japan, that series wasn't too popular, so Imagineers decided, instead of putting in something that wasn't too popular, that they would create a whole new story that would kind of still give way to this dropping elevator sort of scenario. And this is the story. Harrison Hightower III is one of the members of the Disney Sea. He loves exploring, but he doesn't do it too well. This is because anything that he wants, he either decides that he's gonna steal it, or he just pays for it with his loads of money. But even when he has all of these artifacts, he doesn't showcase it to the public so that people can learn about it. He just kind of hides it to himself, and the only time the public gets to see it is when he's gloating. Now, Harrison Hightower III has always kind of been a bad apple. He went to boarding school in England, and when he was there, he was a huge bully to Cornelius Endicott III. Now, that's an important name to remember because he actually ends up being one of Harrison's biggest business rivals. Now, on one of Harrison's exploration adventures, he ended up meeting with the Matundu tribe. Now, the Matundu tribe is actually one that was feared by many explorers, but for some reason, they sat down with him for dinner, and when they were sitting with him, they told them about their idol called the Shiriki Utundu. Now, the Shiriki Utundu is said to be cursed, and Harrison wanted this for himself. He asked them if he could buy it, if there was any way that they would part with it, but they said no. So in Harrison fashion, of course, he stole it. When he was running away with the Shiriki Utundu, the Matundu tribe actually knew he was doing this, but for some reason, they kind of had a sly smile on their face. So on New Year's Eve in 1899, Harrison decided to throw a huge party where he could show off the Shiriki Utundu. He had lots of press come in, and most of them were asking, "Isn't this thing cursed? Aren't you scared?" So then a reporter named Manfred Strang kind of questioned him heavily about it, and Harrison decided he was going to kick him out. Now, Strang was smart. He snuck back into the party as a waiter, but he kind of just followed Harrison for the rest of the night. He didn't press on. At the end of the night, Harrison was exhausted. He was ready to head back up to his penthouse suite in his elevator, and right by the elevator was his valet, Mr. Smelding. He told him, "I think that you should take it easy with that thing, and you should really respect it." Now, at this point, Harrison was fed up with people telling him what to do, and he decided to take his cigar and just burn the Shiriki Utundu. Now, once Harrison loaded the elevator, the idol's eyes lit up green, and that was the last time we ever saw Harrison Hightower III. What happened in the elevator isn't something that we will ever know, but I'm pretty sure he got blasted to another dimension. Now, 13 years later, Hotel Hightower was scheduled for a demolish, but it was Beatrice Endicott who decided that she wanted to keep it open with the help of the New York Preservation Society to give tours. Now, if you remember that last name, Endicott, that's Harrison's main rival and also his nemesis. So it's a little bit interesting that Beatrice decided she wanted to keep it open because this was definitely against her father's wishes. When Manfred Strang heard that the hotel was going to be open to the public, he knew that that was not a good idea after what he experienced on that New Year's Eve night. Remember, he was following Harrison, so he probably knew that something sketchy went down. He went up to Beatrice. He said that if she was going to do the tour, that they should do the first tour together and kind of look around the hotel. When they got into the hotel, the Shiriki Utundu appeared. And then suddenly, so did Harrison's voice. He was warning them to get out. The two started running out of the hotel, barely escaping with their life from the Shiriki Utundu. And for some reason, Beatrice still decided that she was going to conduct tours. Now, I think that's pretty crazy, right? But here is my thought process of it. I think that Beatrice went home and told her father that this hotel was cursed and haunted and that whoever stepped in there wasn't going to step out. I think that her father loved the idea of further slandering Harrison's name. I mean, it was like, even though Harrison was gone, Cornelius could still ruin his name further by letting his hotel ruin other people's lives. I also think that he was a little bit jealous. I don't think that he liked the idea that people wanted to tour his rival's hotel opposed to stay at his. So his thought process was, if you're going to decide to go to Harrison's hotel, you're not going to come out. So the next question is, how else does Harrison tie into the Disney Secret Explorers and Adventurers Club? If we hop over to Mystic Manor, we can see photos of Harrison in the group of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. We can also see him holding the Shiriki Utundu. There is also an ore plaque in Disney's Tropical Hideaway with Harrison's name on it, just kind of signifying that that's one of the ores he used on one of his expeditions. Oh, and there's also a photo of Harrison stealing this giant rock altar head, an altar head that looks pretty similar to the one that you can see in front of Raging Spirits. Now let's get back to the last name of Hightower. So whenever we're thinking Hightower, my first thought is usually George Hightower, of course, like I mentioned, Constance's fifth and final husband. Now, of course, George Hightower connects to the Haunted Mansion, and if you know the origin story of the Haunted Mansion, you know that before it was the Haunted Mansion, it was actually going to be a museum called Museum of the Weird. Now, if we're looking at the Disney Sea Tale, Madame Zarkov, also one of the members of the original Adventurers Club in Pleasure Island, was someone who owned a place called the Museum of the Weird. Now, although the actual Museum of the Weird never came to fruition, this is definitely Imagineer's way to kind of, give a nod to one of Walt's first ideas. And also, in the universe of the Society, although we may not see that museum now, who knows, maybe years ago it existed and that's what Madame Zarkov ran. And if that's true, that means that the Haunted Mansion is definitely connected to the Disney Society of Explorers and Adventurers. Now, I think we should dig a little bit deeper because I think that there are some more connections here. If we hop on over to Skipper Canteen at the Magic Kingdom, we're gonna head on over to the back library where the Society of Adventurers and Explorers often hung out. In this library, we can see books written by so many of the society members. And one of those books is actually written by a man called Gracie. Now, this book is called Myths of the Supernatural, and when we think about Gracie, instantly my mind went to Master Gracie. When we think about Master Gracie, he's actually had so many storylines in the Disney universe. I mean, when we're talking about the film, from the comics to my personal favorite, the Ghost Galleries. Now, if you don't know what the Ghost Galleries is, this is something that was created by cast members many years ago, kind of giving a lot of these Disney characters backstories. Now, I actually think in this case, the Ghost Gallery story about Master Gracie is probably the most accurate, and this is why. Master Gracie was actually called Master because he was too young to be called Mister. This is something that has been confirmed by Imagineers, but if you're gonna watch the Haunted Mansion movie or read the comics, he's depicted as a much older man. They use the term Master to kind of give him this power, when in reality, it kind of took away his power. But in the Ghost Galleries, Master Gracie is actually the child of George Hightower and Mary Gracie, aka Constance Hatchaway. Now, if we think back to Constance's and George's relationship, we know that Constance killed George with an axe to the head, and then Constance kind of, fled the country. So where does little Master Gracie fit into this story? Now, I was thinking, why wouldn't he be called Master Hightower? And my thought process on this was, if George died, possibly even before little Gracie was born, then it kind of made sense that their child was going to take the mother's last name instead of Hightower. Now, we also know that Constance Hatchaway, aka Mary Gracie, fled the scene after killing her 5th husband, which kind of left poor little Master Gracie left to no one. Master Gracie actually ended up going to boarding school. Now, if you remember, boarding school has actually been mentioned in this story, and that's because Harrison Hightower also attended boarding school. So it makes sense that Master Gracie went to boarding school because it is in their kind of lineage when we're talking about the Hightowers, which is half of his bloodline. After Master Gracie completed his boarding school, he left and was obsessed with death. He just wanted to travel the world and meet new mediums, find new relics, use all of his money and power to acquire as much things as he can that could teach him about this whole supernatural kind of world. Now, personally, this sounds like a mini Harrison Hightower to me. So I started thinking that since Master Gracie didn't have a parental figure in his life, it's most likely that Harrison Hightower would have had to step up to the plate and act as Master Gracie's father. If Master Gracie shares this many traits with Harrison, attending boarding school and having this love to explore but not doing it in the right way at all, and if he did all of these things, it's most likely that Harrison would have inducted him into the Disney Society of Explorers and Adventurers. And when I think back to the Adventurers Club in Pleasure Island, you could totally place some more characters into the stories that we've already told. Let's think about the maid. She would land perfectly in the Hotel Hightower. And what about the butler Graves? I mean, to me, he sounds like he is made to go into the Haunted Mansion. So it's almost like we can imagine that the show's gonna go on at the Adventure Club through these other attractions all over the Disney parks. Now, the next member of the Disney Sea that we're going to talk about is one that hated Harrison Hightower, and that is Lord Henry Mystic. Now, Lord Henry Mystic lives in Hong Kong Disney, and you can visit him by going to Mystic Point. Now, in Mystic Point is one of the most popular Disney rides that have ever existed to this day, and that is Mystic Manor. When you go into Mystic Manor, what you're going to do is go through Henry's, basically his house, and he's opened this up to the public and allowed you to see over 7,000 artifacts that he's collected from his journey around the world by himself and with the Disney Sea. And something really cool about Mystic Manor is its queue. Now, in the queue is where you're going to probably find the most Easter eggs of the Disney Sea. In this queue, you're going to see full portraits of all the members in the Disney Sea. You're going to see portraits of members that you've only heard about, but they aren't really tied to an attraction or area of Disney yet. You're going to get to see little memorabilia from the Adventure Club. Lord Henry Mystic has also opened up a restaurant for us to all see that is also connected, of course, to the Disney Sea, which is the Explorers Club. Now, with the Explorers Club, we can kind of see that this would have also been a really good hangout spot for the Disney Sea to come and discuss and share their findings when they're going on their expeditions. If you're ever at the Explorers Club, you can see remnants of the actual Adventurers Club with the masks on the wall. So that's a fun thing to check out. You can eat from 5 different places around the globe, and it was kind of like Lord Henry Mystic's objective here was to inspire and teach people. I mean, unlike Harrison, he's opening up his home so that people can learn through these artifacts. He's created this restaurant where people can come and discuss everything that they've learned, as well as try food from all around the globe. To me, this sounds like a certain kind of adventurer who really loved to educate. Here's looking at you, Walt. And actually, speaking of Walt, when you're in the queue for Mystic Manor, you can see a photo of, Mystic Manor's opening day, and right next to Lord Henry Mystic stands Walt and Roy. Now, the timelines for these don't match up perfectly, but I really like the idea that, Walt can kind of be resembled and seen through Lord Henry Mystic. And if we jump back to the original Adventurers Club, which, like I said, has inspired this whole universe, I think that Fletcher Hodges would be a perfect fit inside of Mystic Manor. If you don't know, Fletcher Hodges was a curator. He loved to mount things on walls, and I'm pretty sure, if my thoughts are correct, Lord Henry Mystic would have definitely used him when setting up his home for these tours. Now, remember how I said that inside of Lord Henry Mystic's home, you could see photos and portraits of Disney Sea members, and some that we actually haven't even seen connected to an attraction or a place in Disney yet? Well, that was the original story for the next member that we are going to discuss. This next member started out as just a portrait, but that explorer has now spread itself across all of the lands in Disney. I'm also going to give this next explorer the credit of opening and discovering an entire Disney theme park. The explorer we're going to be talking about is someone that we're going to be talking about next week. So if you want to hear the second half of the Disney Society of Explorers and Adventurers, and trust me, you definitely do, because we're going to break into that Disney cinematic universe, you need to stay tuned for next Sunday when the next video drops on the Disney Secret Society. But of course, if you want to see next week's video, the only way to do that is to subscribe, turn on your notifications button, make sure that you like the video, and I will see you real soon. Bye everyone!